Hello everyone, this is Nick at Restore Rural America Project, and today we're going to take a look at the hard hit versus the soft hit on your credit report and the mess that it can create during the loan application process. Now, the hard hit on your credit report basically is whenever a request is submitted and there is a loan or credit request that is attached to it. Now, to be blunt, a person who barely has a FICO score good enough to secure a loan, we're going to say in that 530 to 550 range, because most banks won't even touch you once you're below that 530 range, it can easily eliminate you from securing a loan by basically too many hard hits that occurs whenever you're at a dealership. Now, this is not an intentional thing. It's simply a lack of understanding on how the process works. See, from the dealership's position, it's all about making sales. That's what they're there for. Now, from the loan officer's position, it's about basically filling out those credit apps and then submitting them to their lenders, and the loan officer actually knows, or they have been trained to basically send these apps out to their banks in a select order. And the order tends to start, and we'll just call it in order as it works its way down the ladder. They tend to benefit the dealership. Now, where I'm talking about benefiting the dealership, there's multiple banks that are approved with a dealership. And that number can vary based on the dealership. Some dealerships may only have a few. Some may have as many as 12 to 15 different lenders. Now, each one of these lenders is, the reason they have so many is because certain ones will offer them certain benefits and work with certain people that are within certain point ranges, okay? And so therefore they've got a few that will lend to people that are in that higher end of the scale, probably like in that 750 and up. And then you're going to have a few that's going to work with the people, or be willing to work with people that's in the little bit lower range, and then some that'll work with those that are in a little bit lower range and right above that 530 mark. But they always tend to work in a certain order, not necessarily in an order that would benefit you as a customer. So when you fill out this credit application, what you're actually doing is giving this dealership permission to run your credit report. But what's taking place is you're giving them permission to run it with each one of their banks while they're trying to find the one that will lend money to you. But they're starting from the top, working their way down. So let's say that this particular lender has 7 different banks that they work with. And they start from the top and they start working their way down. And they get that first decline, and they're going to apply to the next. They get a decline, and they're going to apply to the next, and then the next, as they work their way down that ladder. Now, if you're the person that's falling in between that 530 to 550 range, this is where it's going to hurt you. So for the purpose of my example here, we're going to say you're at that 550 score. So let's say that if you have an existing credit issue, that last lender is most likely the one that would have worked with you. They're the ones that would have been willing to to lend money to a person that was in that 530 to 550 credit score range. Well, here's where it all goes wrong. You go into that loan process, you have a 550 score, okay? When you went into that dealership, they run your credit score with 7 banks as they're working their way down, trying to find somebody that's going to lend to you. And they're starting with the ones that are benefiting them the most, okay? Now, you're taking a hit each time that they run this credit report. So let's say you got a 4-point hit each time. So that's 7 times 4 points each. That's a total of 28 points that you just lost before you can get to the lender that probably would have worked with you. Okay? Now, your credit report, instead of saying 550, what this lender is seeing now is 522, which is below the mark, and you no longer qualify for a loan. And it's not like you can just, go to another dealership, because the damage is already done. The problem is going to follow you to whichever dealership you go to, after that point. So the most important thing that I want you to take out of this particular video is know your credit score and let that loan officer know what your credit score is before they start submitting this information, and try to steer them into the direction of, hey, I've got a credit issue here. Don't run it 10 times and or half a dozen times. Go after the one where I stand the strongest chance of being approved for a loan. And that's a fair question to ask them, or at least, or a statement to make. And basically what you're doing is you're telling them just get it right. Because if they do get it wrong, they're not just, losing you as a customer. They've literally just fixed you to where, it's out of the picture for you. And the only other option that you may even have left is a high-risk lender. And we'll get to that one here soon. Now, before I step into that high-risk lender, I want to make a point here. Whenever each one of these banks or lenders that they're working with, and it's banks in general, it's not just the ones that are at your dealership. This could be your local bank too. It's all going to apply to every lending institution. Whenever they look at credit reports and decide who they are and who they're not going to lend money to, they have a system that they go by. This FICO system, and within each so many point range, as it's going down from 800, 750, and so on, there's a level of risk. Now within this level of risk, you're going to have this bank's willing to work with a person that's in this range, and they don't want to go any lower. This other bank may be willing to go a step lower, but because the risk is higher, the interest rate is going to be a little higher. And then it's you're going to find another bank that's going to fall into this category down here that covers that 530, 550 range. There again, more risk. The lower that number, the higher the risk. The higher the risk, the higher that the interest rate's going to be on it. And this is the reason why you'll see some places where it'll they'll promote. Let's say it says you could get up to a certain interest rate. And it looks like this phenomenal rate. Well, that rate, it's the way they've got it worded where it says up to. That's targeted towards that person that's got that 750, 800 credit score. And then it goes down, from that as the level of risk increases. So, but you also have other lending institutions that are not banks. There can be private businesses that are considered, high-risk lenders. And these types of businesses, they are all over creation. I think about every town in America's got one of them by now. And, the interest rate is very high. They're more willing to lend because you're there in the door. You live close by. They can see what kind of assets and stuff that you have. But the interest rate is high. Now, there are going to be some people that's going to fall into a category where I have to have a vehicle. I have to have that tractor to to get my work done. I have to have something to be able to to continue on. So they do serve a purpose, but they're not the ideal location. You want to try to stay within your traditional banking system whenever possible. Do keep this in mind, that there are no guarantees that you will get a loan approval. The objective here is to get you an approval, but at least I want you to walk into that loan application process and have a fighting chance. So now let's take a look at the soft hit. Well, the soft hit is basically the same report that is produced whenever a hard hit takes place. The only difference is it just doesn't have an application for credit that's attached to it. It literally produces the same FICO score, what's taken place in your payment history, who your current creditors are. All of that information's there. It's the same exact form. It's just you don't take a hit on your credit report whenever one of these is being ran. They're ran on your credit report typically in a year's time. Well, you could easily have 10 to 20 of these ran. Every time that you get, let's say, a piece of mail where you've been pre-approved for a credit card or something other, that a soft hit on your credit report has taken place that generated that from a bank or a lender. Let's say a lot of places now, if you apply for an apartment or something, they're going to run a credit report. There's even now a lot of different types of job positions that they will run a credit report on you before they hire you. There are lenders out there that they do understand this, and they use soft hits to access your credit information, determine what the risk level is, and then go back and do the the actual hard hit pretty much once they're ready to make that decision. Not many of them out there that will do that, but they are a few. That's really the ideal way to do it. It requires a little bit more legwork on their part. It really does. You're probably talking about the amount of time that it takes to type the information in, submit it, take a look at it, and then resubmit it, again. So it's a matter of minutes, but it would save a lot of people, in this country just, a headache and prevent, damage from occurring. I do want you to leave this with one thing. This video, my main point here being, know your credit report. Go to a good place to get your free annual credit report would be Experian. If you Google it and you get into the web, you're going to find probably about 1,000 different places that's trying to sell you their service to access that credit information. And if you end up going there and you find these places, you're in the wrong place. You shouldn't have to pay for it whenever you are legally, allowed to get a free annual credit report without it doing any, damage to your credit. So Experian.com is a good place to go to get that free copy. And once you've got your credit report, remember to discuss it with that loan officer and make them aware of what your credit report is, and hopefully you can steer them in the right direction and increase your chances of getting the loan that you need. Well, I hope you've left this video with some beneficial information that maybe you can apply and help clean your credit report up, identify the problems, and be able to secure a loan that get the equipment or vehicle that you need. And I hope that you join us for the rest of our video series, Mastering Your Credit, and we'll see you in another video.